Greetings, YouTube. You know, I have a few goals when I play this game in Marvel Contest of Champions. It's not to be the best, really, at anything. It's to have the most fun, right? It's to actually remember that the word game should be for fun and entertainment, and to not have this thing be a second job. So, even though I say all of that, I have fun just doing minor things. I'm addicted to the arena, which most people aren't, and good for them. And so some people will be like, you said you want to have fun, but then why do you do the arena? Well, I like to get units and battle chips, and I like to afford featured Cavalier crystals and unit offers when I don't have to spend actual money. And so to me, every time I grind in the arena, it's like putting something in my MCOC savings account for the future when something great pops up. And so that's fun to me. And it's not nearly as competitive and heart pounding and BS as Alliance War, because many of you know I don't actually participate in an alliance that runs Alliance War. So, because of this, I have different goals with my mastery setup than most people. When I started out almost 2.5 years ago on my YouTube transition to MCOC, I didn't really understand that everyone's mastery goal was different. And so my thinking has evolved with these kind of videos. Everyone's roster is different, and everyone's goals are different. And so when I show you my roster, this is particularly a great mastery setup because I also love my 6-star rank 2 Corvus. I'm not trying to do a flex. I'm just telling you, this is a mastery setup that really is advantageous for Corvus because I run the ability with my Suicide Mastery being half of full Suicide Masteries to have this guy recover health at the beginning of every fight. He's basically like Dr. Voodoo's ability at the beginning of a fight in Corvus's body and damage. It's amazing. It's so much fun. And Alliance Quest Map 5, which is all I run, he is the MVP in just about every fight other than, I guess, the mini-bosses, because I still have somebody like OG Vision to take down, say, Morningstar and Hyperion over Corvus. But I love Alliance Quest because I love Corvus, and my whole Alliance Quest attack team is built around Corvus, and my mastery setup is as well. But on top of that, you can see just how high the PI of my champions are. This is a setup that really wants to maximize points in the arena, because even though I'm addicted to getting milestones in the arena, I don't want to spend 30 or 40 hours a week in the arena if I don't have to, because I run the 5-star featured and the 3-star featured, and if I have time, sometimes the 4-star featured and or the 4-star basic. But in general, those are the two arenas that I concentrate on. The more arena points you have, the higher the champion's PI allows you to get those points. So I'm going to show you a mastery setup that is good for me. Is it good for you? Depends what your goals are. Some things in this are not exactly mainstream thinking, such as not having any points in courage. Every time I show my mastery setup, there's somebody out there who's like, wow, I can't take this guy seriously because he doesn't have the courage, ironically, to put points in this mastery. Well, for me, it works out to not have them. I get, especially if courage is no longer broken, why people like the courage mastery so much, even if they only have 1 or 2 points in it. But for me, I'd rather put those points in something like despair or glass cannon than courage. Just a personal preference. I would also like to have points in both precision and cruelty maxed out over courage. I used to really value pierce, but I also have taken that down to 1. So my attack, I haven't noticed a huge difference, and I get asked this question a lot too, between when I ran maxed 5 out of 5 in deep wounds and assassin as when I do 3 out of 5. I'm sure there is a difference, but it's so minuscule to the eye that I don't even think about it. It still feels like they're maxed even though they're not. Kind of sucks because I spent a lot of units on mastery cores to take both of those masteries to max, and now I really am only telling people, if you enjoy it, just take a 3 out of 5 and you'll have a big enough difference to where you're fine. If you want to max them, I get it, but for me, this doesn't really make sense. I also want to say, when different champions come into your roster, your mastery setup needs change. if I opened Omega Red, which at this point's never going to happen for the next 10 years, I would be very tempted to take some of the mastery points, even if it meant taking Deep Wounds and Assassin and maybe even Despair down further to free up the 3 points needed for maxed Liquid Courage to run that at the same time as I have maxed Double Edge. But until Omega Red happens, I'm only running Double Edge for Corvus, and also because I have Ghost Rider in my lineup who's bleed immune. Vision is nice because, of course, he's double immune. But in general, this is my offense. My defense, very small margin. I only have enough to max out Willpower. I did not run Willpower for at least a year, and I was a little ignorant in my thinking of, I don't need to use Willpower because, it got nerfed a while back. And I got to tell you, when Act 6 started and I started going to Chapter 1 and seeing the power that literally Willpower made on some of those nodes, and that global node especially, I thought, wow, this is huge to saving units and potions and ultimately revives. So I now run Willpower maxed, particularly with the permanent Suicide Mastery build. And again, I'm very blessed. A lot of people would say don't do that because of Alliance War. I don't have to worry about Alliance War, so I just have the freedom to run it in my Alliance. Another thing that a lot of people think is stupid about my Alliance Mastery setup, Alliance Quest I should say, is that I have 2 points in Stand Your Ground and 1 point in Perfect Block. I like to fight stun immune masteries and even limber sometimes by holding block and baiting my opponent to throw his heavy attack. Sometimes, especially when I'm trying to run the arena but also talk to people during live streams, sometimes I take my eyes off the screen and I get clipped with the heavy. And I've won fights before because of Stand Your Ground. Most people maybe think that this is a waste. At least some people do because I hear from them every time I do one of these videos. But for me, it's not. It's important. And I have to have 15 mastery points filled in defense to unlock the ability to use Willpower. So I think for me, this is the best way to space out my defensive mastery points that combine my fighting style with a high PI for the overall rating of my champions in the arena. Proficiencies, bare bones. I used to run 4 out of 5 in Mystic Dispersion. Now the only Mystic champion I have in my main Alliance Quest or questing lineup is Ghost Rider, who personally I don't really think needs Mystic Dispersion to be great. So I don't feel like I missed those points, but of course if I was running a Mastery setup that was mainly geared to say Symbiote Supreme, this Mastery setup would look a whole lot different. From there, the only 2 Masteries that I think you really need to max in proficiencies for sure are Stupefy and Parry. I am a huge believer in Parry. I get asked all the time from people who are starting out prof, what are the first things I should do with my mastery points? And I always say parry, even just 1, and of course get to dexterity, and all you need is 1 out of 3. If you learn to parry and you learn to use dex to evade special attacks, you will go so far, so fast, and most importantly, you'll save a ton of units because you won't be clipped by things that would normally clip you, particularly special attacks. So, this is my mastery setup that currently focuses on a combination of high PI for the arena. If you don't run the arena, this is not going to apply as much to you, of course. And 6-star Corvus, who in a perfect world, I think I might be like wanting to take in the year 2025 at this rate to rank 3 as my first rank 3 6-star. Of course, that all depends on tier 5 class catalyst fragment crystals, which you never get the class that you're aiming for. So I don't even know why I'm admitting that because it's not going to happen. But in a perfect world, I'd love to take Corvus to rank 3 as a 6-star. That just sounds like a ton of fun because I already have so much fun using him in Alliance Quest and even regular questing as a rank 2 6-star who does not need to be awakened, keep in mind, to have that incredible power and damage output, particularly with the missions that you gain throughout fights. So, what do you think, YouTube? Sometimes I get some people who are nice enough to be like, hey, I appreciate you showing your setup. I think I'll try it. And of course, you get other people who it's just like I insulted them with the very visual of my setup. Who in their right mind would show such a setup to such a great viewer? Sorry if I blinded you, Cyclops. I guess you're going to have to get some new glasses. But this is my setup. It is my favorite setup that works for me. The keywords are works for me. If you have different champions, if you have different goals, if you're a person who wants to focus mainly in Alliance War, doesn't care about the arena, you're going to want to have a different mastery setup. I do want to end a video on a request at some point. One of the things that I think hurts this game, especially with masteries, is that we don't have what other games have, which is the ability to have 3 or 4 or 5 different mastery builds that you can cycle through for like a flat rate fee of units. And so if you want to, of course, reset your masteries, you have to do that from the beginning and kind of remember what you had before. And it should be fairly easy, you would think, given how much work they spend on champions, to just come up with a way to cycle between mastery builds depending on what you need. This would especially be beneficial for Alliance War, because after you placed your defenders, maybe you wanted to switch up your mastery setup for attack, you could just switch easily. I've heard this idea for years. It is time that we have the ability to do this. I think this would really help players' enjoyment of the game, which of course would cut down on the amount of people who retire and quit the game altogether. So there you have it, YouTube. Thank you for watching this video, even if you don't agree at all with my mastery setup. And I just enjoy being able to send a link to people who message me and inevitably ask me to take screenshots of a mastery setup. I don't have time to do that, man or woman. So here's a link. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.